Hello, it's Bring It In, TrueHoop's Zoom from Quarantine show. Henry Abbott is off today. I'm Jarod. I'm your intrepid host. Hello, Coach. How are you?
I'm doing great. How are you doing, Jarod?
Can't complain. Lots happening in the NBA. We had some games last night. We got trade deadline in 48 hours? I mean, it's nuts. Or 24 hours, I should say.
Yeah.
Crazy. So let's get into some stuff from last night. You were watching a couple games and you saw a tweet on the internet. Why don't we dive into that and talk about sort of national games and what the NBA can do about that?
Yeah, I just saw that. I don't remember who it did. Judy can post it up there, but the national games were bad. Like Lakers, Pelicans sounded great until no AD, no LeBron blowout. And I don't remember the second one. It was bad too. But meanwhile, the Nets were in a battle with the Blazers.
Mm-hmm.
I saw it on League Pass. It doesn't make a difference to me, but do the first one, Judy. Yeah, there you go. But the average fan who's tuning in on TNT,
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't want to see just Zion Williamson and Brandon Ingram going off. They want to see a competitive game. In theory, I don't know what they can do. I don't know what football does. I don't follow really any of the sport. What do you think? How can the NBA do a better job of this?
Well, one of the big things that always gets brought up is flex scheduling, right? The ability to sort of like flip the game and say, okay, we can move this out and make this game the national game instead. You can do that. Football can flex schedule a lot easier, right? Because it's one game a week, right? The problem with the NBA in so many ways is the multiple and the amounts of games, right? It's just, and the production necessary for it. It isn't like, again, football, I know it's a national game or whatever. We come out 3 days early. The NBA is a little crazy because, well, you got to have a game the night before. And they have done some flex scheduling in the past, as Devin mentioned. It's just a little more challenging in this league. I mean, really, what we're getting at here, Coach, is we play too many games. I mean, that's ultimately what the problem is. There's too many freaking games. We have to find a way. And I mean, I doubt this will happen because the model and the way the model works right now, not only is it about the TV, it's about the gate revenue, right? Like the owners aren't going to want less games because they're going to get less gate revenue. So while the TV broadcast contract, you can probably work something out where it's similar in dollar amount. If you cut from 82 to 69, well, that's only 30. It's 30 something home games instead of 42, right? And those little things, owners and people who are billionaires, they nickel and dime, right? And they notice little things like that. And so it is problematic. I think the league can, if you're going to schedule out in advance, because obviously they make the schedule well in advance, look at how you can carve out the back half of schedules. And it's going to take teams and league partners working together with arenas and when the circus and ice capades and all those things that fill up arenas are in town, and find out where do we have blocks of time where we can do, all right, we're flexing this game. No, this one's going to move here. And how quickly can we make that happen, right? Like, especially when an injury happens. Okay, LeBron and AD are out. Take the Lakers off national. Let's put Team X in their place, right? I think it's going to really take a lot of planning and foresight, but we got smart people that run the league, so they can do it. It's going to take a lot more work, and they have to build in more contingency plans.
Do you think the NBA has ever considered making League Pass free and said, we don't need the $150 a year we get from the X number of subscribers, which I don't know what that number is. Yeah. And then just that way it's available. Anyone wants to watch any game, they can do it.
I mean, the question is, how much, to your point, how much revenue do they make off League Pass? I don't know. If it's something where it's worth it, do I have a problem with the ice capades? Not really. The ice capades are fine. If it's worth it to them, right? You and I were talking yesterday about Top Shot, right? So if Top Shot is something that's making them a ton of revenue and they can figure out how do we make League Pass cheaper, that's probably better. I think the first thing with League Pass, though, is make the product better from the start, right? Problem you have with League Pass is you still have blackout situations, right? Like, so, which is, I was like, why are we doing this? Like, why do I still, if I pay $299 or whatever the hell League Pass costs to not have commercials, why am I still getting games that are blacked out that's ridiculous. So I think the product needs to be better there for sure.
So wait, like you can't watch a Knicks game on League Pass?
Knicks or Nets, I cannot watch on League Pass. I have to watch them on their regular cable channels.
Yeah, same as I've got to watch the local affiliate, which is, for me, it's not a big deal. I have DirecTV, so it doesn't matter. It's just you can't watch the opponent broadcast feed.
Yeah.
You have to watch the Magic one. For me, it's Orlando. So I sometimes like listening to. I'll watch a game with one broadcast network and flip it to the other side, just like contrasting. And some guys are like better than others. And so, yeah, you can't do that. I understand. Yeah.
Yeah. And they're one of the things too, like NBA TV, which is like essentially the NBA's, that's their propaganda channel, for lack of a better term, right? That needs to be better as well, right? Like it looks kind of like my high school cable TV set. Like, you guys, this is the NBA makes enough money. Let's really, and this league has been on the forefront of digital, right? More so than the other three major sports. So your, in my estimation, product should be the best, right? Like, invest in that, because that's where we're going. Again, following up on what you and I were talking about on the phone yesterday, this is the future of the league. I don't know we're gonna have young kids sit around like how when I was young growing up and how you were young growing up, just watching hours and hours of games of basketball. Kids don't do that. Like, that's it's very rare, right? Like, there's too much going on, way too many things to get yourself into. We have to find a different way and a way to really get these kids engaged with the game. And for one, making a digital product like really fancy with cool things, that's one way to do it.
You know, just to finish this thought, of course you're right about everything. And you don't have children, but you know kids, because you're dead right. But when I was growing up, I listened to the game sometime on the radio, right? And the Friday night KPLA game was like, that was the cool thing to do in 7th grade. Go to my buddy Ron's house, now Dr. Otten, and watch the game of the week. We were really happy it was the Lakers playing, but we watched no matter what. Otherwise, there was no games to watch. Hell, I just saw Marvin Hagler die the other day. I listened to Hagler Hearns on the radio.
Oh,
I love boxing. My papa was a doctor dentist, but he loved the fight game. He grew up in New York, and that was my thing with my dad's dad. And so I even bought my son a little transistor radio when he was just getting into his own bed and playing baseball. Like, he was out of the crib, whatever. At 5, he was playing t-ball, whatever. I think maybe I went to I think it was in this house, so maybe he was 9 already or 10. And he looked at me like I was the craziest man in the world. I would go to sleep every night. I had a black and white TV, a tiny one. I wasn't allowed to use it, but I'd go to sleep, listen to baseball games on the radio. It wasn't local baseball. I lived in Tampa. We didn't have a team. The other day. So the days are gone.
I totally remember the radio back in the day, like listening to baseball games and like, it was just a different experience. And actually, listening to a game on the radio is actually quite cool. Like, younger kids are like, "What are you talking about?" No, it's pretty cool listening to a game on the radio.
I love
you really have to like, you're there.
Yeah, you had to think because you had to see it. Yeah, I really liked it.
You mentioned Hagler. I didn't get to go here on boxing, but my godfather was a huge boxing fan, and so spent obviously a lot of time at my godmother's house growing up as a kid, and we used to watch all those fights. Hagler, Hearns, Leonard, Duran, that sort of like that golden era with those four kings, I believe they were called, boxing, and it brought back memories. And I was like, oh, I remember those fights. Like, those guys were like, and those fights weren't like 6 rounds. Those dudes went the distance. It was crazy.
I go back to Norton breaking Ali's jaw. Norton was my favorite boxer, Ken Norton.
Yeah.
Ali Frazier battles where they both literally almost died after one fight from heat exhaustion. Their temperatures were way above. They had to pack them in ice. There's a book, I wrote a book about it years ago. Yeah, 15 rounds, toe to toe. Like, those are the days, man. For me, anyway, I loved them. Now I won't watch it. I quit. I quit when Reynolds takes Cobb, got his ass beat and bled everywhere, and I never watched boxing match since.
I mean, it's barbaric. let's be honest. I mean, it's brutal. Anyway, moving on to more civilized thoughts. You saw something on Twitter yesterday about who would you start your team with going forward, John Collins or Kristaps Porzingis? And you said that answer may not be easy as you might think.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I think it was more who would you rather have? So right now, what do you think? Who would you take? Yeah, who would you rather have going forward? John Collins or Porzingis? 3,000 votes. Wow. And that was 10 hours ago. I don't know what the answer was, but what's your answer?
You know me. I love size and shooting. So anyone who's 7'3" and can shoot threes, and also score inside, I love that. But if you said John Collins, I'd be like, I can see that too.
Yeah, I thought most people would choose Porzingis. I haven't looked at the answer to the survey. Oh, there we go. Collins. See, I was leaning towards Collins. What you said is right, and Porzingis is better now, but he's 26.
Yeah,
and Collins is 23 and a half. Everyone's talking about trading him. Like, he can't rent a car for a year and a half. legally, right? In most states anyway. Without paying a lot of money. The Hawks seem like they're dying to trade him. He's not a good defensive player. He's almost average.
Yeah.
Very, very elite offensive player. Porzingis is better on defense for sure. But I think Collins down the road, and I worry about Porzingis' injuries. It's just, it made me think you've got Luka, who's his Robin, right? He's Batman for sure. And I thought Kristaps was a great get, but I'm not sure it works out.
You know, if you're Dallas right now, right? They've been playing better of late. Like, Cuban came out and said we're not trading Kristaps, which, you know, owners say a lot of shit.
Yeah. Right.
But if you were going to trade Kristaps, right, what do you think his market is? Because I think that poll is telling, right? Because you thought most people would say Kristaps, but it went the other way. I think people are soured on him, and it's because of what you said. The injury history. He's a little bit older than people, like 26. You're like, I think people, you know, plus it's also, what have you done for me lately, right? People kind of move off things quickly. What would be the ideal partner to get back to pair with Luka? I mean, player, not like an exact player, but what would you want to get back?
So the second best player on his team can be lots of different positions and players. What they have to have, though, is, like any team, the elite rim protector. Like, I'm a big believer that to win a championship, you got to have Bam or, you know, Dwight or AD, right? Rudy Gobert, DeAndre Jordan out for the Nets, and we can go on and on. You better have that gigantic presence at the rim. And I don't know if Porzingis is that. And so that's a fair thing to wonder. Now, you could have Porzingis and someone else because Porzingis can shoot the ball. Defensively, it might be an issue if you're a defensive big inside, can't play the perimeter, because I don't know how good Porzingis is on the perimeter. Honestly, I haven't studied it much recently on that. I will when it comes to the playoffs. But almost anybody can play with Luka. Just like when Henry knows this well, when Wade and LeBron first teamed up, and there was all this talk of they can't play together, and I used to call him all the time, like, I don't know what people are talking about. Have they never watched these guys play? It's like taking the world's best saxophone player and the world's best pianist or vocalist, and they'll figure it out pretty quickly. They are the best of the best. And Wade LeBron already done it in Team USA. I wasn't worried about them one bit. Luka's in that boat, right? Yeah. Anyone, you and I would look much better on the court with him. He's just a genius. He's just Mozart, like LeBron and these other guys. So anyone can do it. But I don't know that Porzingis, as your second best player, is good enough. Remember, I wrote this last week. With AD and LeBron, they still needed Caruso to play great defense, solid hero in Game 6. So I'm not suggesting 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 aren't valuable. That second guy, though, I don't know if Porzingis is good enough to be that guy. I'll think he's not, based on what we've seen.
So if you had, because Collins isn't a good defender right now, but you think he has the tools to be a good defender?
I do. I think that he's young. It's hard. And he played at Wake Forest, which is fine. I think Lloyd Pierce is a good defensive coach, but if he had lost his locker room, which we're hearing reports that they just didn't seem to click with him, he was old school, and that may not have played well. You can be old school and be Doc Rivers. You have to have a ring in a sense. You got to have some real cred. And I don't know that Lloyd did as a coach. As a man, he probably did. And so maybe Nate will get him going, right? It's fair to watch him as the year goes on if he stays, how he does with Nate, because Nate's got that credibility.
Yeah, and they've been playing well under Nate.
It helped. It helped that they got all their guys back.
Right.
And they got
a cupcake schedule. Yeah.
It was a hatchet job with design, which is fine. If they had already decided to make the move, and I was critical of the move, but based on all the things I'm reading about and I like Lloyd very much, but he was pretty tough on some of these guys in a way that maybe isn't the smartest way to keep your job. And he didn't keep his job. So I think we'll see how the Hawks do. They lost one, I think it was last night, but they're playing much better. If Collins moves, if they keep him and he starts playing much better defense, I think he can be a great second guy with Trey. I really do.
I think for Luka, this Mavs point, you're right, 100%. Of course, rim protection, yes. And then honestly, you need and this sounds easier said than done because Luke is so good. You need guys who can catch and shoot and defend, right? Because he will get to where he wants and find you, right? Like this, you need guys who can hit shots, right? And who can defend, which again, sounds easier said than done. Those guys don't grow on trees, But if you're the Mavericks, that's who I'm looking to build around, right? In this upcoming draft, who are these long, rangy dudes who can really guard and who can shoot the ball, right? Because that's gonna so if Luka's got space and you got rim protection, like you're cooking people all day, right? It's just a tough out come playoff time.
Well, yeah, if he can make threes like he has been recently, like he's James Harden.
And
he's not quite as good as James Harden. He's pretty damn close though already.
So it's interesting. I was talking to our friend Marcus Elliott last week, and coming into Luka's draft class, he showed me a chart of all the players they tested in that draft class and what their ability is, what their sort of super skill is.
Stop and start.
Yeah, and his ability to decelerate was on the outside, right? He was number one, and then everybody else on the small chart in between. And it's incredible. And I think when fans are watching basketball, it's like scoring, right? And anything offensive related. That's very easy for our eyes to see and understand. Defense and those other things, much harder, right? Because the ball isn't there, unless it's a block shot or a steal. That's easy. Everybody sees what that is. But deceleration is a skill just as much as acceleration is, right? The ability to stop a 6'8", 240 pounds, whatever he is, frame on a dime, that's a freaking awesome skill, right? And then he put the chart up of Luka and Harden was just another level outside of Luka. And I'm like,
oh, was he really?
Oh yeah.
Wow.
Their ability to decelerate is they're the two best in the league by far, and it's not close.
Yeah.
And that's when you're watching it, you see it, you're like, how the hell did you get? And it's like, oh, you stop because while they've already stopped, you're still moving.
Better keep going. Yeah. It's like a wide receiver in football.
Yeah, it's like Zion's second jump, right? You're coming down, and he's already going back up for number two. It's just.
Although I will say Zion's first jump.
Also pretty good.
He is an artist. If you could watch a nice 5-minute video of some beautiful Mozart, or pick your favorite composer and let him just float through the air. It's pretty cool. Yeah, he's pretty
amazing. Melo, a player who I know, not one of your favorites when he was in his prime, but someone you have a different appreciation for now with what he's doing in Portland.
So first of all, I didn't ever dislike him. I had a player tell me when they were rookies, when Melo was a rookie, that he thought he was fake tough guy. Well, I've coached some Baltimore kids, a number of them. And I was talking to you before the show about how Miami kids are the toughest. I didn't tell you, Baltimore's right there.
Oh, yeah.
PC Baltimore, right there. I've coached at Dunbar. I've worked out players in Dunbar's gym. And I loved it. Those guys, I wasn't worried about a thing. Easily the palest guy there. Ballers everywhere. They all knew who I was. It was awesome, right? That's how it always is if you go to a place that really values basketball. And I did not agree with my player, who definitely was tougher than me. And I don't know how accurate it was. Melo was incredible, but he wasn't always as well liked as he is now when he's way worse as a player. But he's easy to root for. And yet I looked at his metrics today in dunks and threes. They're bad.
Mm-hmm.
They're just bad. And I don't know how it looks. I know Portland fans, love him, and Damian and CJ love him, but I don't think he's an answer for them.
No, if you look at Portland's numbers overall, defensively, clearly not good, right? They're just not.
Right.
And ultimately, that is, and we talk about it all the time on the show. I love Dame and CJ as a backcourt, but you always mention there's a tax when your two best guys are 6'3" and smaller. Yeah. It's just problematic. And so, and Cantor, as good as he is offensively, zero defensively, right? And Nurkic being out hurts them a ton.
So much.
Covington's really good, but he got in foul trouble last night in that game, right? And that hurt them. They have guys who can kind of get after it a little bit, but when you want the whole kind of soup pot to be working, you're like, nah, the pieces don't all quite work together defensively. Offensively, oh yeah, they can fill it up like nobody's business. But ultimately, come playoff time, it's like we talked about on Monday. Everyone's like, "Oh, Lakers!" They're gonna. I'm like, no, you're not gonna beat the Lakers. They can't get stops, and those guys are too big. It's just, and in the playoffs, as much as we know, you like to see who can create and do. The other part of the game is who can get a stop. Just as important as who can get a bucket when you need one, who can stop you from getting a bucket is equally as important. And Portland really has a tough time doing that.
Did you watch the game last night?
Mm-hmm.
So Judy, we can jump to where you see it says, let's talk Nets and SLC tonight. So Brooklyn last night played Portland in Portland. And tonight they play in Utah, which could be a big game, but I didn't know if Harden plays. I thought he looked exhausted last night.
Oh, he was, first of all, he got hurt the game before.
That's what I was wondering too, is because I talked to him this morning, said he might be hurt.
Yeah.
And that person said to me, I'm not sure he's going to play tonight.
If I'd sit him tonight, because it's back-to-back anyway. You're probably going to lose. So just, you know.
The Blazers made a big mistake. They doubled him a few times in the fourth quarter. And I don't know that he scored a basket in the fourth. When they doubled him, I don't know if he's sort of film when they doubled him, twice he found Tyler Johnson for easy jumpers. When they didn't double him, he still mostly got a good shot. He just didn't make it, which could just be random. But Portland was awful on offense. They just were jacking up threes. I don't mind threes. Damian Lillard threes seemed to be a good bet. But in fourth quarter, in close games, well guarded, I just thought they could have got whatever they wanted against Brooklyn defense. They didn't try. And I thought both teams struggled to execute in the fourth quarter.
Yep.
Which brings us to your thing about Brooklyn. And last night they played Claxton a lot at the 5, who did great. Blake Griffin can play the 5 for them, doesn't offer nearly as much, knows how to not getting away. Claxton's still young. But when they've got, with Steve Nash, tell me if I'm wrong, it just seems to me that there's a culture of ball movement or just making an extra pass that I don't think we predicted would happen. We hoped it might happen with Nash's coach. I don't know that we thought it was going to happen, but they're doing that. They were the better team last night and making the extra pass, I thought.
Yeah. They're such an interesting team, right? And to get back to your point about what the game, Portland looked good in the first quarter, right? 41 points.
They're up big, yeah.
Nets held them to 70 the rest of the game. Like, I mean, it just 71. They really played better defense. And then in that fourth quarter, Portland just wasn't finding the spots they were looking at. But to your point, I do think Nash has really incorporated that culture of ball movement. And what I see, it's very interesting when you watch them. It depends on who's out on the floor, right? If it's Harden and all the other guys, you'll see quite a bit of ball movement, right?
For sure.
If it's Harden and Kyrie, a little bit less, but it isn't like, oh, I'm just Kyrie going one-on-one ISO. Harden will start with the ball, but oftentimes, pass. If Kyrie's the last one to end up with the ball, well, it's usually a good matchup. He's going to go score. And I think there is something to the idea of when he came out and said, you know, James and I talked, I said, you're the point guard, I'll be the shooting guard. Whatever that's real or not, that actually kind of works because that frees up Kyrie to do what he does best, which is score. You don't got to worry about setting the table for everybody else. I'll do that. You go score the basketball. I'll do all the other shit. But Kyrie can also pass too. So then it's like he becomes now the secondary assist guy, right? So it's like, ooh, I'm coming in. I drew it. Let me kick it to Claxton for an easy layup or a Joe for a wide open 3, what have you. And I think that's really this idea of, we always talk about at the beginning, it's only one ball. What are these guys going to do? And I briefly touched on this on Monday. All of these guys now are in year 8, 9, 10 plus in the league, right? They've already won all the individual things, been all that shit, particularly Harden. What else is left on his resume? Championship, right? I got MVPs. I got all NBA. So all of that stuff that mattered when I was 24 and you're a young guy and you're trying to come up and like, I have to prove I'm them. I've already proven I can do that. Now, I don't care what matters. I got to win the championship. That's what my goal is now. And I think you see that in how he's playing, and it's infecting that whole team.
So Harden is an enigma, I think you'll agree with. And it's interesting what happened in Houston because I think your point is really good. And I think he came to that realization years ago.
Probably.
With Houston under Kevin McHale, when he had already led the league in scoring. I don't think he had won an MVP yet, but he was clearly going to have right there. And I felt like he wanted to do all those other things. And then D'Antoni came, and not knocking D'Antoni. And he flipped it and made it all about James again. He's like, all right, if you're going to, I can't do a draw invitation, but all right, I'm going to do, if you insist, coach, I'll go score 35 a night and get 12 assists, right? So we did. We got the MVP. But I think he's happy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think he's happy doing less, a little less. I mean, let's face it, dude. There's no way he can't score 35 a game if he wanted to.
Sure, easy.
Easy. I mean, literally easy. He's truly a brilliant, brilliant man as a basketball player. But he's trying to cook people. And there's something else. One play happened last night where for the Nets half-court offense was awful, same as Portland, awful. The Nets had a little thing happening in transition in the fourth quarter. And there was one play, I should have downloaded it and sent it to you, where Joe Harris was pushing it. Cabarrot, who I love, cut. And in transition, you don't normally see a cut in transition, but it's what happened. And they got it to me, got an easy layup. I'm like, oh, that looked like the old, like Nash used to do hard drive handoffs to a guy going to the rim. It was a brilliant play. I'd never really seen that until Nash did it. And I think he's got these guys thinking about, hey, we don't have to have spacing when we cut. As long as we beat the guy guarding us and the guy with the ball is being defended tight, there's an opening there for the cutter to score. And it was just one basket, but it was an important basket. It was a one-possession game.
Yep.
They scored twice in transition, importantly. And then they found Joe Harris in a mismatch. You know, one of my favorite players coming in the draft. He just jumped right over a dude who scored, easy jumper. I think that I mean, I've not been a fan of them. Fan's the wrong word. I've not been a believer, and I still think Milwaukee's defense, to your point about getting stops, I believe you. I agree with you. And I like where Milwaukee's going defensively right now. I don't love the Nets where they're trending enough. But we have 2 months to go, as you said earlier, right? They don't have to be the best defensive team or the 5th best tomorrow. Let's just see them grow it up. Let's see what happens after the trade deadline, after the buyout. There might be some buyout situations. There might be some guys traded and then bought out.
Yeah.
Right? Like if the Clippers trade Lou Williams, I'm not saying they would.
Right.
I do have a trade that I listed on this. He would be in the trade. And if he was traded, he would definitely get bought out. I don't know where he'd go. To a team that needs a bench scorer. Maybe the Lakers. They can really use a bench scorer right now.
You got him with Trez.
Right. Oh, I know. Right. So that's so funny. It'd be so great to see that, wouldn't it? Let's just see what happens. But I know this. Durant is not going to get in the way of this. He is also a genius. The biggest myth about Durant is that he is a product of being 7 foot, very athletic, extremely skilled, scoring machine. But what people don't understand is he really knows how to play basketball. And as he should, right? Let's face it, he's one of the world's best players. It's not just because he's tall, athletic, and skilled. It's because he also understands the ebb and flow of the game and the nuances of the game. He is another genius, right? Kyrie is not at their level. Kyrie is amazing, but he's not at James's, no one else is either, at Harden, Durant's level. He's an incredible third piece, incredible. Every bit what Bosh was for Miami on offense, obviously he's not the same on defense. They're intriguing. They're intriguing. And having Mike next to Steve isn't a bad thing.
No. Again, I think, and Nash has said this all season, the games are their practice.
Yeah, for sure.
They're not saying it in like a demeaning ways to their opponent. It's just that we don't have time to work on shit. So the game is when we're going to work on our stuff. And from the beginning of the season till now, you just see, oh, that's something new you guys are doing. This is something new. It's all a lab and a process. And again, trade deadline we talk about, they get back maybe the best player in basketball back, right? To add to their team. So now you go Harden, Irving, Joe Harris, Durant, and then you can do a myriad of things in that spot, right?
Play Durant at 5.
Sure.
You can play Durant at 3.
Yes, you can do a lot of different things. So I think they make it very interesting to stress test Milwaukee and Philly, right? And I think in the Eastern Conference, more than ever, the seeding will be so important because I think it'll shake out that Philly, Brooklyn, and Milwaukee will be 1, 2, 3 in some order. Now, if you're those teams, you prefer to be 1 because you don't want to have to beat the other 2 to get to the NBA Finals, right? I mean, if I have to, it is what it is. But if I only have to beat one of them, that's a much easier path for me to take than having to beat both of them, right? So it'll be interesting to see how that works out.
Let's take right there. So tonight they play the Jazz.
Yes.
The Jazz have stopped guarding, although Rudy Gobert, they played Chicago the other night, and it looked like we described how Milwaukee started playing, but I thought Budenholzer just said, enough's enough. Quit fucking around. Let's start guarding people. That's how the Jazz looked against the Bulls, and they annihilated them. their second unit of Conley, who's a starter, Clarkson, Gobert, who's a starter, Niang, and Ingles. Do you know what Joe Ingles has done the last 22 threes he's taken?
18 of them?
18. You're good. 18. Okay. That unit's been destroying people for 2 years now. Killed the Bulls, and Rudy was a man possessed.
Yeah.
So the difference is the Jazz have stopped playing defense more or less compared to where they were, but they have the bones to bring it right back, starting with Rudy, right? The Nets so the Jazz are 16th since February 14th on defense in defensive rating, and the Nets, I think I said 18. I put it in there. Yeah, 18. So better than where they were. Mm-hmm. Neither team's elite. It's unfortunate to back to back because I think if Jarod does play, it won't be the same.
It honestly, and Steve said this, we know about minutes and load, and particularly now because the Nets are so shorthanded. Kyrie's not on this road trip. Landry Shamet got hurt the game before last. Obviously, Durant's still working his way back. I know it's like sacrilegious, but in many ways, I'm kind of punting this game, right? Like, Harden doesn't play tonight. Like, it's just no. Like, because
they probably should do that. They probably should just play their other guys, and if they win, they win. Like, you don't try to lose. You just don't play Harden to win.
Right.
And you never know. This could be a finals matchup. Let's face it. There's no one in the West that Jazz can't beat 4 games in 7. There's a reason why they're in first place in the whole league right now. So why not start that espionage process? We ain't showing you shit. Like, we are not going to let you see what it's like to guard this team, not Houston, this team. Right. Utah couldn't beat Harden when he was in Houston.
Right.
Don't let them even breathe an idea as to what to do against this particular group with James running the show. The next time you play us, we got our 2 cool cats that's going to be his teammates, in Durant and Irving. That would not be stupid to do.
Yeah, that's what I do personally.
But you mentioned the East, and so Judy, we have a thing about the Raptors could join OKC if the team loaded. I put that they could be like OKC with all these draft picks if they traded Kyle Lowry, Norman Powell, right? That's what they're discussing now. But they've got Chris Boucher they could trade. They've got Fred VanVleet they could trade. I could go on and on. There's a lot of guys, right? And stockpile picks and young guys. Who gets Kyle Lowry? What do you think ends up happening with Kyle Lowry?
So obviously the talk is Philly and Miami as the 2 teams, right? And I think Lowry had said, and Devin, you were fast on those Googles. Let me know if this is correct. I think he said, Lowry, that I want 2 years, $50 million extension, right? So
he said that?
Yeah. I believe Lowry said that. So now if you're a team that wants to acquire, that's what I'm looking for. Now that could just be him trying to scare off somebody.
Yeah.
Who the hell knows? Him in Miami to me is so fascinating because when Jimmy Butler plays for the Heat, they are fucking excellent. Jimmy's top 7 in the league in win shares per 48. Yeah. The problem is he's been COVID, hurt, whatever, so he hasn't been there. But when he's on the floor, oh shit. Imagine if you had a Lowry, Jimmy Butler backcourt with oh my God. That's a scary team. I don't want to play them in the playoffs. That's not going to be an easy.
That's one reason why Philly wants it. When I was a young high school coach and was very involved with high major players being recruited, one of my jobs when it was my players being recruited was to see, okay, how badly do they want my guy? Or how badly do they want my guy to make sure that their opponent, their rival in the league doesn't take them? I had a player who brought one of my kids in twice. Dean Smith was brought in twice. He brought one of my players twice from North Carolina. In-home visit, they came to see him twice at home and all of that. And I just wasn't, they still had a guy named Serge Wicker, who they won a national championship with. And they were kind of trashing Serge Wicker, which bothered me a little bit. And I just didn't trust that they wanted my player, who was a great, great player, as much as they want to make sure you go to Duke or Virginia. And so I don't at all think that Sixers don't want Kyle Lowry. Yeah. But I definitely think part of the motivation of wanting him is to make sure he doesn't go to a contender.
Yeah, and this is probably Mark's talking about it. So Philly is the other team, and Devin just said it's 2 years and 25 is what he asked for. So Philly, you have to get salaries to match, right? Because Lowry's at $30 million, I believe, this year. So the Danny Green contract has to go number one, right? Because that's already 15 and change. and Mike Scott's on their 5, right? That gets you to 20. Now, of your young guys, who are you giving up? Tybal or Tyrese Maxey? Because if I'm Toronto, you ain't keeping both. I'm taking one of them dudes. Which one do you want to give up? And again, if you're Philly, you have to be thinking about, and Henry loves to say this all the time, and it's true, in the playoffs, of course, your vets and your superstar guys are going to do what they do. But you need fresh young legs who are good and can, right? Well, if I keep giving up my fresh young legs,
my window's getting really short.
I'm putting a lot of stress on my old legs, right? So do I want to give up a guy like Tybal who can guard, right? Like shooting is a little problematic for him, but he can guard. Maxey can score. Guarding's a little,
he's a rookie.
I
like both guys.
Yeah, but you got to give up one. One's got to go if you're getting Lowry. You ain't keeping them both. Yeah. And it's tough if you're Philly. But as Daryl says, if you have a 5% chance, well, you got to go all in. And if you have Philly now, imagine that. Now it's Kyle Lowry taking some of the ball handling pressure off of Ben, right? You can roll Ben in that dunker spot, right? And you can do a whole lot of different things. He can cut, do a variety of different things. That's that other initiator out on the perimeter who can do stuff offensively. And of course, we know he's going to draw charges on defense. He's going to be in the right place, strip, steal, all of those important things that matter in winning plays. That makes Philly super scary coming out of the East.
So do you favor, I know Henry is like no pop quizzes, and I'm not quizzing you on this, but do you think there's one or the other that has an advantage? I don't know.
I don't think I don't think anyone has the advantage. And honestly, too, if you're looking at Philly, giving up Danny Green, I think is going to hurt, right? Because that's another force. Yeah, you got Seth Curry, but what helps when you have Simmons and Embiid on the floor is having as much space around them as possible. You move Danny Green off, that's one less spacer, right? And so, I don't know.
Spacer, two-time champion recently, right? Back to back. No, back 2 and 3 years. Is that right? No, he won Toronto. Yeah, back to back.
Yeah, Toronto and Lakers.
Yeah, he's back to back. So 3 total, I think it is, maybe even 4.
4, yeah.
But 2 in a row, yeah. That's not easy. That won't be easy for Daryl to do.
No. And again, in Miami, they have cap space this summer, right? So it's like, do they want to do that and then also extend Lowry and eat into their cap space? Maybe they want to get Victor Oladipo, but they may wait on Oladipo, right? Because he ain't re-signing in Houston, so you can just sign him in the summertime and not have to give up anything to get him. So, and again, it really all also comes down to, Coach, who legitimately thinks they have a real shot versus like, all right, wait, like, and I don't, your bus analogy, I think the bus is more crowded than ever, right? More people are on
the biggest bus. Yeah.
But I only think a few teams are going to have a chance to go to the final stop, right? That's so,
Right. So the way, and I'll probably start writing this, I'm waiting for the trade to be done. I'll write it when that happens. Last year we tiered the bus. It was Henry's vision of, going into the season, everyone thinks they win a championship, but the reality is, in many years, 4 or 5 teams maybe. It's double that now. That have a legit shot to win. When you consider the Lakers or the Clippers could be 5, 6 teams, right? And I'm not going to say they can't win a championship. There's a lot of teams. There's 9, 10 teams maybe that can win. So, but you're right. In the first class of the bus is a few teams, and the other guys around the bus, they got a shot, as opposed to the ones that are going to make the playoffs but have no shot, like a lot of the teams in the East, right? But it's the biggest. It's still the most crowded bus.
Yeah,
it's the most crowded bus we've had, and that's exciting. And that's what this trade deadline is. Deadline is such a big deal. And then the buyout market will be just the same. And then, sadly, from a holistic point of view, there isn't any more G League because the league's done.
Yeah. To
grab people from that can help. And I've always said I think that the league does a very poor job of really understanding how good some of these players are. The Sixers have Paul Reed, who was a G League Rookie of the Year and Player of the Year. Rookie of the Month, because it was a 1-month league, and Player of the Month. He's a Sixers guy.
Oh.
And he's a kid. And he's 19, I think 20. He's very good.
That's something I wish the league, and I know you champion this, I wish the NBA would do more. If you have a G League team that's part of your affiliate, man, use that thing for what it's for, like how baseball does. Send guys down to work on their game. Bring up, like, come on, man. Like,
how the Raptors do it. That's how Jarod does it.
Down there. Like,
look at all the players Toronto has developed.
And speaking of Toronto, what they could do, and we still don't know if Masai's, because he hasn't signed a deal to come back. So we don't know if he's coming back. If you're going to get rid of Powell and Lowry, right, what you're telling me is reset, right? Okay. So you're building around Van Vliet, Boucher, and Siakam, right?
Wait. What if they don't build around any of those guys? What if he says, you know what, we're emptying the cupboards and we're doing OKC. And we're going to build around whatever young player, like I proposed, one of the trades I proposed is a deal with the Bulls. A couple weeks ago, I proposed the Bulls trade Zach LaVine to get more really talented young players. In this case, I went the opposite route. Leave it right there, Judy. I have the Bulls taking Powell, Siakam, and Boucher. Wow. There's 3 starters next to Zach, but they got to give up White and Williams. Satoransky and Porter are just contracts, and then a first-round pick. So if you're Toronto, whoever you end up keeping from this exodus that you begin, you build around these new guys and these picks, and you're going to be like OKC with even more guys potentially. Although Shea Gilgeous played better than all of them. And I don't think Kobe White's going to be an all-star. He could be. It's possible. I think Pat Williams is fantastic. He's just 19 years old. He's going to be amazing. So Toronto can do that. And remember, that's just one trade. Jarod, they got a draft pick if they did this, plus Pat and Kobe White, 2 lottery picks. One was a number 4 pick. They still could trade Kyle Lowry, right? He's going to bring some kind of value. They wouldn't trade him otherwise, right? They could trade Aaron Baines for a second to a team that needs a backup center.
Yeah.
They can get some expiring. There's things they can do and really start over. Oh, and they can trade Fred VanVleet, which I even think I may put that one in there, Judy. The bottom one there. I think that might have been VanVleet one. If they really want to go, there we go. You get Zubac, who is, centers last a long time when they're 7-1 and agile. So Zubac at 24, it's like he's 20. And big men are very different that way if they can move. He's way more athletic than think. So if there's no first to get from the Clippers. So, and I'm not suggesting they should do this, by the way, but I think if you want to get all these young players and you're not worried about drafting a center, you got Zubac. So, and Pat Bev, you trade next year to a team that really needs a point guard, right? And he's your organizer right now with these young cats. And Lou Williams, you buy him out. He's gone. He'll sign somewhere else. And now the Clippers get VanVleet and Baines. And again, not at all suggesting this will happen. But this is the kind of arms race Toronto can start and just flatten it out. And then I have not asked Masai. I could obviously call him. I'm not going to do anything. But my thinking, Jarod, is, does Masai just wait to see what he pulls off before he does anything? Does he say, wait a second, I got myself 3 future firsts in the next 3 years, 3 lottery picks in the last couple of years, all this cap space. I'm going to start over with these guys. It's kind of fun to do that. There's no pressure to make the playoffs for a couple of years. You've already delivered a championship. They'll offer you the greatest contract you can in Toronto. And if you sign a 2-year deal there, you figure, okay, in 2 years, this group of guys will be so much better. And you've only helped your value if it's possible from a side. Like if there's any stock that's at the highest, it's his.
Yeah, for sure.
It can't, and it's going to be there for a bit. So I think it's interesting if Toronto just really want to start over, they trade all their valuable players and just build up from scratch.
Yeah, it's interesting too, because I think I'd also watched the Siakam situation, right? Like him and Nurse got into something a little bit a couple games ago, and he's been struggling, right? Like accepting like being like the best guy on a team, right? When Kawhi is gone. And so they might do a full on rebuild, right? And say, you know what? We got our chip with these guys. Let's just reset and figure out what we can do from here. And yeah, build your store cupboards, and then get yourself back into completing. I do love Boucher though. I think he's so good.
I do too.
He's so good.
He's why I was high on Toronto to start the year. And quite frankly, this is COVID. It's not. I don't think it's living in Tampa so much. Obviously, they're not home. I get all of that. They might be living. I think some of them probably renting places, whatever. I know they're not complaining about our weather every day. But COVID, when they just started coming back playing well, and Lowry hadn't even started playing well, they were winning. Mm-hmm. COVID decimated the whole team. Yeah. End of season right there. That's, I could see Masai believing like I did that, man, we can just get right by March, mid-March, early April. We can make a run of this thing and get to the 5th or 60th, but I don't think they can. They keep losing. So I don't think they can do it. And they got to play Milwaukee in the first round of Philadelphia.
Yeah. Done. A team we didn't put in the rundown, I'm curious if you think I mean, I don't think that they're not going to compete for title this year, but what do you do if you're them is the Celtics? Do you use that trade exception now, or do you wait and use it in the offseason, right? Because again, I don't know what moves you're going to do as the Celtics that will all of a sudden be like, okay, now you're in the top of the league or the top of the conference with Philly, Brooklyn, and Milwaukee. I don't think there's anything they can do, but maybe.
I would use it if I just loved the deal. I wouldn't use it because I feel like I have to. When do they have to use it by?
They don't have to use it. I think they can use it in the offseason. They don't have to.
So they can wait. So if that's the case, I think you use it only when it makes the most sense. You've got your players under contract. They're there for a while. They're talented players. You got to keep your coach if they're going to do that, because Indiana Hoosiers really want them. And yeah, I think you're right. I think this is the year where if you're Philadelphia, I get it, going all in because you're leading the East. If you're Boston in a COVID year, like, let's just survive the season. Make sure no one blows any knee out or ankle out with, so we have them to start the season next October. And let's live with what we have to live with. And that I would like to see that.
So for you, Aaron Gordon wouldn't move the needle for you for the Celtics.
No, I like him better for the Mavericks. I told you the other day.
Ooh, the Mavericks.
That's who I like Aaron Gordon with. Yeah. I just think he's a really solid two-way player, and the Mavericks need that. Like, he's not their second best player winning championship, but Luka's so good that they can beat any team in a series. They may not be able to win 4 series. They won't, I think, be able to win 4 series in a row, minus injuries and COVID to the opponent. But with him in place of Maxi Kleber and Kleber off the bench, I think it's a significant upgrade.
So Aaron Gordon, and I want to be clear about this, I'm not saying he's as good as Draymond defensively, but he's a good defensive player, and he's a way better offensive player than Draymond.
Right now, yeah. So is a lot of guys.
Could he be a super, the Dallas Mavericks version of Draymond, like a super different, because he's not quite Draymond defensively in terms of, I know where everything goes and all that, but that switchable 4 who can literally do just about everything.
I mean, he's an upgrade for them, I think, on both sides of the ball for that team. And I referenced this on Monday when Henry likes to talk about, if you replace a bad player with a better player, your team's going to get better just for that reason. I want to mention Draymond, though. This is something I think is really important, because we're hearing a lot of talk about finding the Draymond, right? But so you can go small, right? The small 5. But the magical trick of Draymond Green, it always has been the case, is as a 5, there's almost no one he can't guard as a 5 inside. His strength, length, intelligence, and timing, what happens is it translates into a player who's working and pivoting and faking. And Draymond's like, all right, bro, I'm here. Here we go. And then the last second, he puts his arm up in contest, and the dude we miss the shot. Like, that's just, no one else does that. They get overwhelmed, and they go for the 3rd fake or the 4th fake, and Draymond just doesn't do that. So it's not the rim protecting that he does. It's the fact that he can guard your center to take advantage of any kind of smallness that you're showing and not take advantage of it. That's what's special about him and almost no one else in the league. They can be, he ain't 6'9". Aaron Gordon is. That's a tall dude, right? Draymond's not. Probably more like 6'7", right? It doesn't matter. With that standing reach and his quick feet, intelligence, all of that, that was the trick of their death lineup, is you couldn't beat them up with your big against that dude. So good luck trying to find someone like him. You really can't. But the flexibility and the adaptability that Aaron Gordon has, I just think is a big upgrade for Dallas. I mean, for Boston, he's definitely an upgrade too, for sure. But I don't think they have the Luka to move the needle the way Dallas can be. I'm telling you, if Aaron Gordon went to Dallas, there's not a single team in the West to be like, oh, right. They'd be like, oh, fuck.
Yeah.
Like, we got to deal with Luka, and now not Maxi Kleber, but this dude.
Yeah.
And what if Kristaps, and he can play with Porzingis easily. Yep. So that's why I liked it. Yeah. There's a deal in place they can do that too, I think.
Draymond said something interesting recently, and I want to know your thoughts on this. He called himself the greatest defender in the history of the NBA.
I love him. Don't get me wrong. Like, yeah, come on. Huge fan of his. I mean, no. So I grew up on Michael Cooper, but let's just take that's unfair. I was a teenager and I loved him, and then I was a college kid and I loved him. KG and TD.
Yeah.
I mean, forget about Bill Russell. It's a different era. Obviously, he's incredible. Those two guys were. I mean, they did it differently. Fire and ice, really.
Mm-hmm.
But equally just incredible. But Draymond's amazing. I'm glad he said the best ever. But that's what makes Draymond Draymond.
Yes.
To be fair.
Yes.
It's like the little guy. Always fear the little guy in a basketball game if he can really score, or in a fight, because the only way they can survive is bravado, like testosterone and confidence, and they're going to punch you first. And so Draymond being this undersized 5 and the key to winning all these things, separate from Steph and all that, like, yeah, that's who he is. But do you think he's the best ever?
No. I think in this era and in switchability, to your point, what he can do, it's like, yeah, he is and it's to your point, every team is like, how can we find out? You probably ain't going to find your next Draymond, right? So in that regard, he is that. But like, no, all time, stop it.
Yeah, he's a Hall of Famer. Be thankful with that, Draymond. I think he's a Hall of Famer for sure.
As you know, Coach, that's how you make it in this league if you're someone like Draymond. You have to believe that, or else you ain't making it.
That's what I'm saying. You can be. It's not great to be less than assertive if you're this great athlete, whatever. Andrew Wiggins is still a very good, he's a good NBA player. And he doesn't have that assertiveness. You put Draymond's swagger and confidence in Wiggins, well, now he's an all-star.
Oh my God.
But if you took Wiggins' passivity and put it into Draymond, he'd be in Poland right now playing.
Yes. Correct. Yeah. Well said. You understand this game of basketball, Coach. You're pretty smart about it.
I've been around a little bit anyway. You can see your fall of grain.
I want to look at this Brian Scalabrine.
Yes.
Judy, pull this up. And this is my commentary.
Don't challenge protocol or pros.
Yeah. Don't ever challenge a pro athlete to literally anything, because you're gonna freaking lose. Some high school kid challenged Brian Scalabrine to a game of one-on-one, and well, you'll see what happens.
I get in the video? I get in the video?
Yeah. Do you know who he is, by the way, Jarod?
No, I don't.
You would not think he's a player right now.
That's great now. What's the game to?
Just whatever. We're going to just dribble around till I get my ass tired. Where you guys play?
Here we go.
Talk to me, Jay. Get shit out of here.
Clock is first shot.
Hey!
Hey!
You said hit the weight room.
Hey!
Yeah. What, 11? Yeah.
I love that because you're not going to score on that. Like I just don't like. I'm like, no, they played in the NBA. Like, no.
So as an example of that, one of those plays, I watched this at, I think it was like 6 something this morning. I had to go somewhere early this morning. And I told you, I sent it to my son and said, this is how you use your body. This body you're working on all the time in the weight room, whatever, this is how you use it. Although Scalabrine's body is more from beer, it looks like to me now. Probably even back when he played a little bit. But there's one thing he did besides using his body and his face. In one of the baskets, he's driving right, and the kid, who's very quick, jumps to try to steal it. Scal knew it was coming and just kind of warded him off and made an uncontested shot. That came from what you said. From all these NBA games, every dude sees Brian Scalabrine, they're like, oh, I'm taking the ball from this chump. And they probably did. If you go back to watch Scal his first few years, he probably lost the ball way more than his next few. 2 reasons. 1, he stopped dribbling very much, clearly, because that's going to happen. 2, when he did, he knew it was coming and knew how to ward it off, right? That's experience, right? We all have experience in our walks of life, and we use it in our daily life, not even thinking. Scal, I promise you, wasn't even thinking. It was unconscious. Oh, you're trying to take my ball. You ain't the first guy to do it. You're the slowest guy to try to do it, though. You know what I mean? Scal played against Iverson, didn't he?
Yeah, no doubt.
Like Iverson went for that ball. Steph went for those balls. This guy had no shot.
it's hilarious, right? Because obviously this kid is clearly younger and more athletic, but it doesn't matter, right? Like Scouts knows how to use his body, up fake him, like, and the kid's hacking him and fouling the hell out of him. And it's like, all right, whatever, it's fine.
Right. There's just a pace, a poise and pace that pros play with. I've told this story probably before on the show, but during All-Star break years ago, when my kids were really little, I would have pros come in town during the break, and we'd work on something. And I would invite, like, if a friend of mine or my brother, if the player was from their college that they went to, because they would love to see this guy they loved in college. And I didn't matter who I had in the gym. If it was a center that couldn't shoot, in theory, in the NBA, they would rain 15-footers, rain them down, and invariably, and many of these guys were coaches in high school, just blown away. And even the guys that can't shoot in the league, in an open, empty gym, don't bet your lunch money against him in horse. Yeah, he's not. Don't forget the dunk contest. Don't do it. There's a level of understanding that, if you play chess every day for 15 years, you may lose a lot of games. Boy, you're gonna be good at chess compared to the person who just watches sometimes on TV. Yeah, that's what's happening. These guys are playing it every day, all the time for a decade plus.
And I think the thing is why most of these average fans like to do this is because in their brain, what they do is compare Scal to whomever the best player in the league is at that time. And it's like, oh my God, you stink. Yeah, compared to fucking LeBron James, of course he stinks. But compared to you, like, he's LeBron James to you. Like, that's the gap in ability and talent.
They saw his body too.
Yeah, and they're like, this guy can't do it.
You went with your mind. All right, let's make sure we do one more thing. Judy, go to the one where I have Here We Go. I want to get Jarod's thoughts on this. So the Heat are the first to announce that vaccine, if you're vaccinated, there's going to be a section just for you. And I wrote Here We Go because I think this is going to be a thing now. It's because eventually all these teams want to have an arena packed with fans. So my point, Jarod, is it's one section on April 1st. Is it two sections on April 15th? Is it 6 sections on April 30th? And we still have a month to go, more or less, before the playoffs start. How long before an entire stadium vaccinated only? Like, I think that's coming.
Yeah, I'm with you, Coach. Because look, we're already seeing the numbers tick up of people going into the stadiums, right? Portland, and Nets were in Portland last night. Portland doesn't have fans in their arena yet, but in Oklahoma City doesn't. But just about everybody else has got fans in there, and they're trending up, right? And once they're doing you're vaccinated, you can come in, 100%, like, it's going to happen. And the crowds that get that and have that, that may be some level of an advantage, right? To kind of have that environment where you've got, I don't know if we're going to have enough time to get a whole arena. We might, I don't know. We'll see depending on where it is. But, I'll say this, the team that can do that, huge advantage if they can do that. Huge.
See, I love that you just brought that up, because I think that's the next step in this process, because what we're seeing now in no surprise, red states, the doses are there, apparently. The people aren't getting them. So in Florida, I think we're actually doing pretty well in terms of number of doses, and people all went again. We have plenty of old people here. When I went to get my first dose, I had the longest line I could possibly have, because every dose was booked. And then the group after me, every dose was booked. That was encouraging to see. And we drove by a testing place this morning. That's it. And there was a lot of people in line. That's good. So teams should do what you just said. Inspire your fans. Get vaccinated and come. Hell, do a discount.
Yeah.
Like, we need to get people we all benefit from this. I have a player in Europe who had the B variant. This guy is in better shape than you'll ever be in your life ever. Me too. And most 99.9% of the planet of all time. And it fucking knocked him out.
Yeah. Knocked
him out. He's back playing now, finally. It was a scary few months. We need to get as many vaccines in arms, and the teams can rally people that way. How you're describing it, like, hey, you're vaccinated, come on in. That's one way to get more people to do it.
Yeah, even if owners are cynical about it or whatever, you want your stadium full, right? So just figure something, right? I mean, even if it's just purely about money, just do that, whatever.
I wonder if the NBA will endorse it as an organization.
Yeah, and I forget which team, and running out of time, one team has already said they've got a bunch of players who are, like, going to get vaccinated.
I've talked to players, they can't wait. Yeah, I've talked to players, they can't wait. Whenever their state allows it where they are, they can't wait to go get it, and they'll probably talk about
Pelicans and Trailblazers. That's who it was. Thanks, Devin. I knew you were quick on those Googles.
Yeah, good. Yeah, we need that. We need to protect everyone. You see what's happening in Brazil. We don't want to go that route. I don't think we will because we have enough already. But that is going to be the most horrific movie of all time. We'll talk about it on Friday. What's happening in Brazil is really super, super scary.
All right, everybody. It's closing time. Legal's here. Stay safe. We'll see you on Friday. Thank you, Coach.